And welcome back. Pharmaceutical retail chain Dis-Chem says that it plans to oppose the Competition Commission's decision, referring it to the Competition Tribunal for prosecution. And this after Dis-Chem was found to have inflated prices of essential items from February. Now, the Commission found that prices of items such as surgical face masks were increased by between 43 and 261%. The company says it doesn't believe the information and data provided to the Competition Commission during its investigation show any contravention of the Competition Act. The Dis-Chem CEO, Ivan Saltzman, joins us on the line now to discuss this further. Mr. Saltzman, thanks so much for speaking to Morning Live. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, listeners.
Mr. Saltzman, looking at what you're saying, are you denying that Dis-Chem, in fact, did increase the prices on face masks?
We acknowledge that the competition has brought charges against it relating to excessive pricing. They allege that we are guilty before we've been heard at the tribunal. So we have been judged and convicted before we've been actually heard. This is extremely harmful to our brand. In fact, in my opinion, I think it is criminal. We are consulting with our legal team and economic experts and will oppose the complaint and provide more technical details. We do not believe that the information and data provided to the Competition Commission during its investigation establish any contravention of the Competition Act. Unfortunately, the initial information and data appears to have been misunderstood. Dis-Chem will still be responding in detail to the allegations in the referral in due course.
So what does that mean, Mr. Saltzman? Because what we are hearing from the Competition Commission is that they found that your prices on face masks at Dis-Chem had increased by between 43 and 261% from February. Are you denying that that actually happened?
No, prices did go up. But I can assure our customers that during this unpredicted time, we continue to offer as usual all products, including high-demand essential items, at affordable prices that deliver value.
But how do you justify that increase, quite apart from the difficult times? Because, yes, times are difficult, but you have also been implored by the president to try and not hike these prices. And, of course, there were very clear rules and appeals sent out.
Well, there has been a terrible shortage worldwide of PPE, and there still is. And you have a choice. Either you pay more or you just don't get. And it costs us so much more to actually obtain these products. But our profit margins have remained constant throughout the whole price going up, and now the prices are going down. As China is exporting more and is local production as well.
Mr. Saltzman, the allegation is that you had already increased those prices in February. So in February, were you already paying more for face masks?
Absolutely. If you could find them. There was a shortage for 3 to 4 weeks where absolutely nobody had anything for sale.
So if we look at what's happening now, and regardless of what happens, this must be seen by yourselves as Dis-Chem as very damaging to your brand.
Well, the allegations are very damaging. And it's totally unfair. Dis-Chem is completely supportive of the South African health authorities in the fight to combat this terrible virus, and have demonstrated this in numerous ways. Example, we have supported the government testing capacity and have implemented drive-through testing centres at a number of the malls countrywide. These allegations of price gouging are personally extremely hurtful, as Dis-Chem has always been a good corporate citizen through its foundation and other initiatives. This month alone, Dis-Chem Foundation has donated 5,000 blankets with the onset of the cold weather to the most needy. We support the government in all its ways, and the help of authorities in the fight to combat this virus.
Mr. Saltzman, do you think that the call to impose the maximum penalty here is justified?
Well, we haven't actually been, as far as I know, we haven't been sentenced yet. The gentleman that went on TV said that we have the maximum sentence. Was saying that the maximum sentence is possible, but we haven't had our hearing yet.
But do you think, it's a justified call? Because at a time like this, companies and individuals are asked to be patriotic towards the cause of, getting South Africa out of this pandemic as whole as we possibly can. And then companies contravene, or the allegation is that companies are contravening, like Dis-Chem, some of these calls and inflating prices. So do you not think, therefore, that you should be sanctioned to the greatest degree possible?
If I'm guilty, yes, but we're not guilty.
So how is your company going to move forward from this?
Well, we still have to be heard. We still have to produce technical evidence to a panel, and we can show them that goods that we have been selling have been consistent to the normal profit margins, although the prices have skyrocketed.
So that's your justification, keeping your profit margin stable?
Absolutely.
Do you think that is a good justification at a time like this, when lives are at risk, when people... we've lost Mr. Saltzman there, Ivan Saltzman, because, and I wanted to know whether he believes that that is, a good line to hold, given what is currently happening, given that people are really constrained right now because they are unable to go to work in most instances. Is it justified to hike prices at this point, given what is going on in the country? And also, we always take your views on these interviews as well. Tell us how you feel. Are you a customer of Dis-Chem? Have you been affected? And how do you feel about this? And one of the other questions is, of course, is it only the facial masks whose prices have been inflated, or are there other items as well? And we're trying to get Mr. Ivan Saltzman back on the line. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Dis-Chem and also founder, talking to us about these allegations about price hikes. I believe we have Mr. Ivan Saltzman back with us. Mr. Saltzman, can you hear me clearly?
Yes. We got cut off somewhere.
Apologies for that. So just getting back to the question at hand and asking, your line about your profit margins remaining stable throughout. Do you think that ethically and morally that is a good stance to take at a time like this, when people are really suffering, they are going through the most?
Look, profit margins were actually lower, but it's still a business. If you can't sell stuff below what you pay for them, we had people willing to pay, and we didn't know when the cheaper stocks would start coming in. We had a break of about 3 weeks before we start getting stock in again, still at high prices. But the price of masks has been dropping all the time. It's actually dropping daily now as supplies are reaching us through the ports and through air freight.
So
SAA wasn't flying, and obviously their cargo planes weren't flying. The ports were very congested, and the PPE wasn't coming through. This created shortages on top of shortages.
Mr. Saltzman, and again, it doesn't directly respond to the question of business ethics and doing ethical business, because you are at least in a position to operate. There are businesses that are totally grounded right now. They can't operate. And these are people who might be in need of buying some of the items that you sell at Dis-Chem. So where is, your patriotism in that regard?
Well, what would you regard as patriotism? Would it be...
Not to escalate prices would be patriotic, Mr. Saltzman.
Well, that would be correct, but it would also mean not having anything to sell.
But the point is, you are selling that which you do have at inflated prices. That is the point. It's not a point of not having stock.
No, you're completely wrong here. You are completely wrong.
Correct me, please, Mr. Saltzman.
We have stock. We have stock that we paid less, a small amount of stock. Then we have stock that is coming in at 4 to 5 times the prices. So what we apply to the formula is we take an average of all the stock that we have on order and we have on our shelves, and we have a new normal cost. And onto that new normal cost, we add a small profit.
So you said earlier that your profit margins remain constant. Now you're saying you added, a little on top of what you have actually bought for. So which is it? Did your profit margin remain constant, or did it decrease?
Our profit margin actually decreases because the end product was a terrific price.
Just a final question, Mr. Saltzman. Is it only the facial masks that you were found to have escalated prices on, or are there other items as well?
It's only the facial masks, and I just want to say that on some of the masks that they allege that we increased the prices by so much. They weren't comparing masks with masks. There are different kinds of masks. There are the N95s, which we don't stock anymore. Those were the top end. We've been asked by the President to leave them for the health workers on the front lines. The masks which we stock now are the ordinary surgical masks.
Mr. Ivan Saltzman, thanks so much for giving us Dis-Chem side of the story this morning. Ivan Saltzman is the Chief Executive Officer of Dis-Chem, talking to us about the allegations of price hikes, and we'll hopefully speak to the Competition Commission to get their side of why they referred this to the Competition Tribunal after their investigation. Mr. Saltzman, of course, denying some of the allegations against them by the Competition Commission. Let's get you some news headlines.